The Great News Podcast is brought to you by Podcast Hero. Go to podcasthero.com and learn how to start your own podcast. Tired of all the doom and gloom news from mainstream media? You'll get none of that here. Instead, you'll find inspiring stories and developments that are making the world a better place. I'm Andrew McGivern, and this is the Great News Podcast. Today, human brain tissue implanted in mice responds to light just like other brain tissue. A new heat engine produces electricity with zero moving parts. Using unrecyclable plastic waste in road asphalt, the airline industry may soon be disrupted by flying air taxis. The size and scope of the Mayan Empire is revealed by LiDAR survey in Guatemala. And Iceland sets the goal to be the first carbon-neutral country. All that's coming up next in the Great News Podcast. Remember, if you like the Great News Podcast, you'll love the Great Newsletter. Head on over to www.greatnewspodcast.com and subscribe to the Great Newsletter. Because the Great News Podcast is great, but the Great Newsletter is greater. In a scientific first, researchers from the University of California, San Diego have successfully demonstrated that human cortical organoids, or mini-brains, implanted into mice are capable of responding to pulses of light shone into the test subjects' eyes. Using an innovative imaging system that employed flexible and transparent graphene microelectrodes to measure brainwave activity, the team was able to confirm functional connections in a transplanted human brain organoid in real time. This breakthrough could eventually lead to the use of organoids for modeling disease, testing treatments on patient-specific genetic backgrounds, and restoring lost or damaged brain regions. A new, quote, heat engine produces electricity with zero moving parts. A new heat engine with no moving parts has been developed by engineers at the MIT and National Renewable Energy Laboratory, with a performance better than that of traditional steam turbines. Traditional steam turbines have an efficiency of around 35%. This engine, called a thermophotovoltaic cell, can convert heat into electricity with over 40% efficiency. This technology could be incorporated into grid-scale thermal batteries that could store excess energy from renewable sources such as the sun. The TPV cell is a promising development for a fully decarbonized power grid supplied by energy from renewable sources. Using unrecyclable plastic waste in road asphalt. One of the problems with plastic recycling is that some plastic is not recyclable. Actually, a lot of it. Or at least economically recyclable. Even though return-it depots and recycling programs have been largely successful at getting community participation in recycling, the plastic still ends up in landfills. Unrecyclable plastic waste could be reused as road paving aggregate. 5 U.S. states are leading the way in repaving roads with unrecyclable plastic waste. And so far, the results are impressive. Missouri, Pennsylvania, Virginia, California, and Hawaii are all running pilot programs to incorporate plastic waste into asphalt road mixtures. In Virginia, officials are testing plastic in 6 different stretches of roads around Richmond, while Pennsylvania are testing 2 quarter-mile road stretches within Ridley Creek State Park, using a mixture that contains 150,000 plastic bags. California is paving a shoulder off Highway 99 in Elk Grove near Sacramento with a mixture that contains 10% recycled plastics from printing ink cartridges. And Hawaii is testing a recycled polymer mixture in its asphalt that contains the equivalent of 150,000 water bottles. So far, these programs have shown good results with no microplastic pollutant runoffs in the states involved. If this becomes a new way to recycle plastic waste around the world, then this could take a big chunk out of the plastic problem. There are over 64 million kilometers of roads around the world, and that is a lot of recycled plastic that could be put to good use. But do we really need roads if we're going to have flying cars? The airline industry may soon be disrupted by flying air taxis. There's been the promise of flying cars since the 70s, with TV shows like The Jetsons showing families zipping around highways in the sky. This method of transportation never came to fruition, but that may be changing soon. There are a lot of new startups that are trying to make flying cars a reality, especially for connecting people from land transit hubs to points of interest. Tesla, Uber, and other companies have expressed interest in having a self-driving network of taxis that would take people wherever they need to go, on the ground. But they also said the future of cars will be in the air, and it turns out this may be happening sooner than you think. The development of electric air taxis has the potential to disrupt the airline industry. There are a number of potential eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing designs, being manufactured right now that will be coming to a skyway near you. These eVTOLs offer a faster and more efficient alternative to cars, particularly for trips ranging from 150 to 800 kilometers. Mainstream automobile manufacturers have invested heavily, but it isn't just the automotive industry that's involved. Major airlines such as Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and American Airlines have already invested in this technology, indicating that they recognize the potential for eVTOLs to revolutionize the way people travel. If companies are able to manufacture and certify these aircraft quickly and make them available close to where consumers are located, then the market size for electric air taxis could be huge. This could lead to a shift away from traditional airlines for certain trips, allowing people to save time and reduce their carbon footprint. The size and scope of the Mayan Empire is greater than we think, and has been revealed by a LiDAR survey in Guatemala. Hundreds of cities, towns, and villages of the ancient Mayan Empire have been discovered in the LiDAR survey. Northern Guatemala's Mirador Calakmul Karst Basin. This revolutionary technology has enabled archaeologists to uncover over 900 habitations, including at least 4 large cities and thousands of meters of raised causeways connecting them. The survey also revealed 30 of the famous ball courts, 195 cement reservoirs, and 110 miles of elevated walkways that date back to the middle of the late pre-classical period. This stunning discovery has revealed the true scope of the Mayas' territorial reach and technological sophistication, and suggests a powerful ability to organize thousands of workers and specialists, even in poor soil conditions. And finally, Iceland sets the goal to be the first carbon-neutral country in the world. Iceland is investing in green tech to help reach its goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2040. This includes projects such as the geothermal power station near Helicio, which pumps carbon dioxide into the porous basalt hundreds of meters below the surface. The CO2 reacts with metals in the rock and turns into carbonates, locking it away safely for millennia. This project is one of many that Iceland is investing in to reduce its emissions and reach its carbon neutrality goals. Others include introducing a carbon tax, investing in renewable energy sources such as geothermal and hydropower, and providing incentives for businesses to make sustainable choices. The ambition of Iceland to become the first carbon-neutral country is an inspiring example of what can be achieved when governments are willing to make difficult decisions in order to protect the environment for future generations. If successful, it could be a model for other countries to follow to reduce their own emissions and achieve carbon neutrality. And that's going to do it for another episode of the Great News Podcast. You can leave voicemail feedback by calling 1-877-636-1474. Leave a message and I can play it in the show. And also you can leave comments on your favorite podcast app if they support comments like the Fountain app. And you can also leave a comment at greatnewspodcast.com in the blog post associated with this episode or any episode. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next episode.
podcasthero.com.